6660. Chantel from Environmental. Please dial 6660.
Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I'm not a doctor, believe it or not. But I thought to myself, here I am in the doctor's office, and I wanted to talk about medical supplies from Star Frontiers. The reason being is I played Star Frontiers 40 years ago, done a video about the history of how long ago I was playing it. And in the 80s, a lot of those medical supplies and drugs and equipment felt so crazy futuristic that I just thought, it's been 40 years. I wonder if any of this stuff is real now. And I've done a little research and I thought, yeah, since we're here in the doctor's office, why don't we, I'm not a doctor, why don't we look up what has happened in the world, in the real medicine world, and what is it like compared to what Star Frontiers painted a sci-fi picture of back in the 80s. So, I happen to have my results from the lab here. I wanted to actually start this whole conversation off with something that kind of was the inspiration back in the 90s. I had a little bit of a problem with my skin that was just not working out very well. And my dad used to do a lot of trips down to the United States where they have a different Food and Drug Administration, so a lot of medications, I'm not a doctor, a lot of medications that were not available here in Canada, he could try and pick up down in the States. And there was one that he got. It was just a cream for my hands, and it was fine, and it worked great. But when he picked it up, I was like, that's out of Star Frontiers. The cream was called biocortisone, and anybody who plays Star Frontiers knows BioCort is what you inject into the party member to give them 10 stamina points back. Basically, like in D&D, to heal you up, to give you more hit points, you use BioCort in the game, in Star Frontiers, to heal back some of the damage done during your laser fire or as you were pulling yourself through the air vent or whatever. So I remember thinking to myself, yeah, when I saw the tube of biocortisone, I was like, it's right out of Star Frontiers. And that sort of made me think, well, wait a minute. We've got a lot of things going on now. What Star Frontiers stuff is real now? So I have my results, as I said. Now, although BioCort itself isn't real, except for that cream, there are some things today that do encourage cell growth and stuff. For example, there is pellet-rich plasma injections, also called PRP. These are injections that stimulate healing. I did a little Google search and it says that PRP harnesses the power of growth factors found in platelets to stimulate tissue regeneration and repair. So these PRP injections you could get do actually heal you a bit, like BioCort did back in Star Frontier. Thought that was pretty cool. I did find one item that almost matches the name BioCort, and I'll probably butcher this here. Corticosteroid injections. Corticosteroid? Yeah. So cortisone, or BioCort, corticosteroid injections are commonly used to reduce inflammation and pain associated with various conditions. So we do have something like BioCort. And that just made me think, oh, I gotta look up all the other items from the Star Frontiers medical kit and what exists like that today. So in Star Frontiers, another very handy one was Stados, which you use to kind of conk your player out, your wounded comrade. You use this to knock him out and keep him in like a coma-like state for 20 hours. Is there anything like that today? Apparently there is. There are several. There is Lemborexant, which is specifically made for the treatment of serious insomnia in adults. It can last 17 hours for 5 milligrams and 19 hours for 10 milligrams. So I was like, whoa. Now, I believe that's more of a pill. It's not really an injection, but if you're having trouble sleeping, this stuff is going to conk you out for up to a day. It's like a Statos. Another one is midazolam. This is used to produce sleepiness or drowsiness and relieve anxiety before surgery or certain procedures. It's a calming you down drug. Another one is propofol. This is an intravenous administration and is used to induce unconsciousness, after which anesthesia may be maintained. So they actually knock people out with propofol. It's Statos. The funny one I looked up was Stimdose, which in Star Frontiers is used to like give you a temporary boost of energy, it's more extra hit points. You're using it like I'm in the battlefield and I need just a thing to jolt me through to get through the last bit of the combat. And I was looking up what are some items that would be like that. I found methamphetamines. They are very, very potent at giving people a quick jolt of a good jolt of energy, especially in the crystal form, because that gets into the bloodstream really quick. So crystal methamphetamines are Stimdose. So the next time you're playing your Star Frontiers campaign and somebody's like, quick, I need a booster, give me a Stimdose, you can laugh at the fact that, yeah, here's your crystal meth. Now here's a funny one, or here's one that I thought this is crazy, never gonna happen stuff. This does not exist at all. The autosurgeon. In Star Frontiers, you have a problem, like in D&D, if you're a cleric, if you're a healer, you can heal your party members with your magic hands, or you can heal yourself, because in the pure mechanics of the game, you need to get your hit points up as much as everybody else in the party. But how do you do that if you're the only medic in the crowd? You use the autosurgeon, which I'd always imagine being some kind of a lunch kit thing that I guess you would set on your chest, and it would do the machine, it would administer the drugs for you, I guess. And I remember often thinking years ago, there's a device used in Space 1999 that is not an autosurgeon. It's a piece of equipment that the doctors on Moonbase Alpha are using to help patients. But I just thought, that looks to me a little bit like what I had in my head for the autosurgeon. That would be a little device. If you could maybe fold that up and put it in your pack like a laptop or something, maybe that thing would like sit out on top of you and do the autosurgeon thing. That was always in my head what an autosurgeon would look like, sort of. They apparently are kind of real. It was a frightening thought. There are STAR machines, STAR, which stands for Smart Tissue Autonomous Robots. They are really working at Hopkins University on a device that will assist in administering medical treatment. So I just thought that was pretty incredible that an autosurgeon, which seems the most crazy idea now, or back then seemed the most crazy idea, they're actually becoming real now. Whoa! Don't let that thing anywhere near me. I guess maybe in the next couple of years, like, AI has infiltrated various parts of our life, and I don't know that they're great uses for it, but I guess if you've got a situation like combat medics, where there's one guy to look after a whole troop, maybe something like this STAR machine that uses AI as being as qualified as the medic to keep people up and running. It's not such a bad thing, but no, keep it away from me. I'm not a doctor. Next out of the Star Frontiers Medkit is one I've always had a hard time pronouncing. Omnimycin? Omnimycin? How do you say that? I have no idea. It's essentially for fighting infections. And when I did a search, there's like a ton of these that exist in the real world today. I just, had a whole pile to go with. One that kind of seemed similar, because it's also an injection, is, and I'm going to butcher this, ceftriaxone? Ceftraxone? I have no idea. It's an antibiotic in the form of an injection that treats bacterial infections. So it's omnimycin. It doesn't treat viral infections though, so maybe not entirely omnimycin. Omnimycin, by the given of the name, omni, applicable to all situations. I guess it would be for all kinds of infections. And ceftriaxone is close. Now here's one that was a little bit difficult to research because acid neutralizer is listed in the Star Frontiers Medkit. And I always thought, okay, in Star Frontiers you have guys running around with acid sprayers, and if you get hit with that stuff, ouch, but also, what do you use to treat that with? You get an acid neutralizer. So I looked up real world examples of acid neutralizers, and there are tons, but for like gardening purposes, there's nobody going around with an acid sprayer killing people, or I certainly hope there isn't. So it was hard. I did find sodium bicarbonate, which is used for like neutralizing all kinds of lesser, like not sulfuric acid, but like in a lot of treatments of situations, I guess acid reactions and metal pipes and stuff, sodium bicarbonate, I think. Or there was actually battery acid neutralizers that you can buy, so that's a little bit stronger. I think a battery acid, though, is not anywhere near up there with sulfuric acid. Like, we're not talking the nasty stuff you would use as a weapon in Star Frontiers. I guess it was hard to find a name of, okay, here is clearly battery neutral, or acid neutralizers, the kind of which you would use on the battlefield. Antibody Plus. Now, this was for antiviral drugs, and in this modern era, you get a ton of results of vaccines to fight viruses. And so we can all say that we now in a world with tons of Antibody Plus. I found like almost everything that I came up with for search results was a COVID-related article. There seems to be a pile of antiviral drugs out there. Now, none of them is like one drug to fix everything. So Antibody Plus, I guess in Star Frontiers, is like, it will fight any virus. It'll fight COVID. It'll fight AIDS. It'll fight whatever. So we don't really have that yet. We have a lot of antibiotics and a lot of vaccines for various infection viruses, but we don't have like one that suits them all. So, but that's Antibody Plus. Next on my list of results, by the way, I'm not a doctor. Then I found antitox on the Star Frontiers list, which is obviously used to get rid of poison. And we don't really have a poison fighting drug. I mean, there are like serums and antidotes for poisons. Generally, if somebody develops a poison, they have created an antidote to fight it, I guess, in case they get it themselves or one of their friends gets it. I did find naloxone. That will reverse opioid poisoning. So I guess that counts as like a largely most poisons you're going to run into type of drug. Naloxone? Gosh. Little idea I have for an upcoming video involves activated charcoal. And I looked, when I was looking up things that are fighting poisons, apparently activated charcoal will neutralize poison in the mouth area. So here was me thinking I've got this great idea for a Star Frontiers video that involves activated charcoal, nothing to do with poison. And as it turns out in my research for antitox, what is like that today, you got activated charcoal will actually neutralize poison, at least in the mouth area where you would ingest. If you're going to drink any poison, activated charcoal is actually pretty good. But again, watch for my activated charcoal video in the future. Tell-all. Well, here's one that goes back quite a long way. Truth serum. We've seen a lot of these in a lot of movies. The classic for me is in Octopussy, the James Bond film. There's a bit where James Bond is being kind of prepared for what comes ahead of him if he doesn't play with the bad guys. And the lead is just like, well, not to worry, I have some sodium pentothal, and I'm going to use that. Along with some Eastern Indian item. I can't remember the line in the dialogue, but it was just like, a curare? Was that the one? Yeah, I think he called Curare. And Bond was saying, oh, that one's a lot more potent, with the unfortunate effect of, like, I think it makes you mentally retarded or something. So, yeah, there are things that these truth serums kind of have a little bit of a basis in reality. They've been used in movies and TV shows forever. Sodium pentothal is kind of a real thing, so there you go. Now we're getting into a little bit less of the drugs and more of the other equipment in the medical kit. And some of these things, I would imagine, are kind of big, so I don't really know how big a medical kit was, unless some of these things, like, can reduce down in size. And in this modern era, a lot of stuff can be shrunk down. One of them was the freeze field, which is essentially suspended animation. If you need to get your party member, you can't help him, he's gonna die. Okay, we'll stick him in a freeze field, and then we can cart him to the nearest medical practice place that'll get him some help, a hospital, if you will. The freeze field will keep him alive. Great, like let's say your Stados is now, you're out of Stados injections, your party member's gonna die. Put him in a freeze field, get him to an emergency room, eventually he'll be all right. In my head, I always thought, like, Han Solo and carbonite? Is that what we're talking? I guess. That's a really big item, though. Like, that's not something you're going to carry around in your toolkit on your back. So I then sort of imagined, okay, maybe the freeze field is a little bit like when you go for an echocardiogram. They've got the device, and then they've got those little sucker pieces that touch various parts of your body. Maybe you've got like a central device, and then you pull these little pieces out and you attach them to parts of your character that you need frozen, and then you activate it, and that will freeze the body. Whether like actually completely frozen, like rigor mortis, and they're just solid, stuck, or is it frozen in the sense of like you're unconscious, you're in a deep coma, you're going to be okay. I don't know. The freeze field always. I'd like to know, what in your imagination was the freeze field? Anyway, apparently they do sort of exist, or they are actually being experimented with. There is the EPR, the Emergency Preservation and Resuscitation Device. Patients are rapidly cooled by replacing their blood with ice-cold saline solution. This reduces the body's need for oxygen and slows down cellular damage, giving doctors more time to address traumatic injuries like severe bleeding or heart attack. So, EPR, I guess that's like when you're in the surgery, on the doctor's table, they're going to use this rapidly cooled ice saline solution, run it through your system to keep you from dying. Then they go ahead and they do all their stuff. But it's not a freeze field device. It's not a thing you would take out and carry with you. So it kind of exists for real, but it's also a little bit outside the realm of what the Star Frontiers item is. Still, it exists in a form. Next one is kind of a funny one. Plastiflesh. Now, I had visions of like, okay, you've been attacked by some big tiger-like creature and you've left these giant scars, and your medic has come along and shot you with Biocort and cleaned it up. You got your hit points back, but you got these big scars on you now. Not to worry, we got a plastiflesh. You're good to go. In fact, there's a scene in Star Trek The Motion Picture. It was a cut scene, but the extended version that they showed on television, when V'ger first strikes the Enterprise, Chekhov gets hit. His arm gets like blasted by a shot of lightning. And once the attack is over and they realize, oh, V'ger seems to have heard our message, we can proceed. There is a bit where Nurse Chapel, who is now a doctor, comes in and she's looking at Chekhov and she's trying to keep him from this wound getting too bad. She actually holds him up and she's got this spray item, and it seems to be the equivalent of plastiflesh. And I thought, yes, plastiflesh, it exists in a film. That's really, really cool. I guess in a way, now, there are real versions of this in reality now. There is spray-on skin. There is an actual thing. I looked it up. Essentially what they do is they take skin samples and they spray it elsewhere, and it encourages the regrowth of the skin. This was actually, to get a little bit real-world depressing here, this was actually used a lot in 2002. There were those bombings in Bali, a lot of the medical community that was rushed there. There was a lot of people with bad burns. They use this spray on skin to help encourage the regrowth of the skin cells. So that was interesting. Or more correctly, checking my notes, they tried it in the Bali bombing victim areas, and it was not conclusively effective, but it was something that was at least helping people to some degree. It hasn't been approved though, so whatever this treatment was, however they thought this would work, is still not available, I guess. Unless you want to get into scary territory. I know a lot of people do some work to their face, and you could definitely argue, yeah, that looks like plastiflesh to me. Here's one of a lot of science fiction tropes, especially in Star Trek. The med scanner. Going along, Dr. McCoy, making sure you're okay. Oh, I can get all of these readings from just this little device that's scanning your body. Great, sounds fantastic. A little bit tricky to wrap your head around. How would that really work? There is a device, though, called the Scanadu Scout. This was a handheld. It was a non-invasive medical device designed to measure vital signs and transmit the data to a smartphone app. So it was kind of Dr. McCoy's scanner. You were able to get a little bit of information, and it would give the readings into the app, and I guess then you would send that to your doctor. Now, I'm saying I guess because it was looking really good. I think it had a lot of backers. They took it to the FDA. The FDA did not approve it. It was denied being allowed to be made, a copyright, whatever the patent hold. It wasn't going to happen. The FDA said, nope, we're not doing this thing. And I tried my best to find what the reason was for that. I couldn't locate an actual reason why the Scanadu Scout was never made into a thing. That's too bad, because that's such a Star Frontiers, Star Trek, sci-fi item. I think it should exist. That's just me. Another item that I had thought I have encountered it and used it myself, and it was sort of inspiration for this video, is the spray hypo. In Star Frontiers, back in the 80s, the idea of just not having to use a needle, but just something that presses against your skin and you inject, and it goes pfft, and you get the drugs inside your bloodstream. Fantastic. Now, not original. Star Trek was doing it tons before. You had Dr. McCoy giving Kirk various spray hypo injections as well. So it's something that, like, I thought, oh yeah, that would be great, especially because there are people who have a fear of needles and they don't like seeing that going on, especially coming toward their arm. But then we invented the EpiPen, which kind of looks and acts the same way, kind of, sort of. I've done a video years ago about how I've got a bit of a nut allergy, and for a while I carried an EpiPen with me. It was recommended. I was just like, well, all I'm going to do is be ill or sick, but okay, I'll carry an EpiPen. And when I had it, I was just like, this is cool. I've actually got the device from Star Frontiers. I've got a spray hypo. This is so cool. So I was very pleased to have it in the house. Unfortunately, it's only good for like a year, and then the contents are no good anymore. So I started thinking, getting an EpiPen every year. I mean, I'm a big Star Frontiers fan, but like, that's a little bit too much. The Sonic Scalpel. This is apparently a real thing. Now, I have visions in my head of like it uses sound waves to cut away at things. Why it would be a sonic scalpel as opposed to just an actual piece of metal blade, I don't know. I guess it just sounded sci-fi. But these things actually exist. There is the harmonic scalpel, which the National Institute of Health says actually exists. It's a real thing. The harmonic scalpel is real. I don't know why you would do that, but maybe it has benefits of like internal arteries, incisions and stuff. You don't have to break the skin on the surface, something like that. I mean, we do have, what do you call the kind of scan people use for pregnancies and stuff, where they use sound to echo off the interior. I'm guessing a sonic scalpel or a harmonic scalpel probably is beneficial in a similar way, I'm guessing. And then finally, the laser scalpel. Now this is something that sounds so space age and sci-fi and like pew pew, right on man, a laser beam. You could be like an alien when they're getting ready to cut the fingers of the hugger off Kane's face, and we're bringing the laser close by and that kind of stuff. But actually, laser scalpels have actually apparently existed since the 70s. I was just like, oh, here was me thinking they were so space age sci-fi and futuristic. I was like, no, they've been around for a long time. It's not that crazy of an idea. So. Anyway, so those are the items from the Star Frontiers medical kit. They really exist, the vast majority of them. And now that it's been 40 years, I found this a very interesting examination of what I thought was pure fiction back in the day, and now it's real. I just thought, yeah, it would be interesting to actually see what Star Frontiers drugs and equipment are now happening now that it's been 40 years. There are quite a few. So, I thought that was a little interesting conversation worthy of a Star Frontiers video. Right, well, I'm going to leave it there. So, until next time, I'll see you down the rabbit hole. I'm not a doctor.